If I try to, take account of at least the major factors that, that have to be reckoned with in giving an adequate answer to this question, I would have to say, first of all, that I'm a human being who as such is an understanding being and cannot live without understanding her himself in the world, and that I therefore have, as an understanding being, certain real vital questions that I am always, in one way or another, engaged in asking and trying to answer. And that, in my own case, I was born into a cultural tradition in which I was encouraged to ask and answer those questions in certain definite ways. And one of the forms of that cultural tradition that in my case was emphatic and important was the particular form of the Christian religion that impacted me. I grew up in the church. I was shaped by it from the beginning of my life all the way through. And I early on acquired a keen sense that I was in one way or another called to serve the church and what it in turn is called to serve. That belonged to my consciousness as a human being from an early time. But as I matured, and especially in the last part of my adolescence and in my early college training, I more and more discovered that I was also a reflective human being who by nature not only has to ask these vital questions, but is compelled to ask the theoretical questions that those vital questions prompt one to pursue as soon as you become reflective about them. And so it was natural for me to find the form of service of the church that I felt called to provide or to offer as a service that would involve this kind of reflective life. And so there was no difficulty by the time I finished my college education in realizing that I should pursue some kind of a calling either as a philosopher or as a theologian, and that I was destined to become a scholar teacher in those ways, if I was also to eat. I naturally then, having gone to a liberal arts college that formed me in a way that I still think is decisive for my whole outlook in life, I then went to theological school, and happily a theological school that was located in the middle of a great research university and an integral part of it, and whose traditions had always been traditions of that kind. And then I went on to do my graduate study in theology at that same institution, and earn the highest degree that I could earn in formal study in theology. And I've spent my life teaching it. Now, that was the University of Chicago. That's no secret to anybody. And as I've already indicated, its motto as a university has always seemed to me to say it exactly right. Let science prevail so that life can be enhanced, increased. That seems to me also true of theological education. That's why it's there. So for me, the important shaping influences have been the church and the academy. And I have spent my life in the second, in the confidence that what I was doing there would and should serve, however indirectly, the cause of the other, that is, the church. And it's always been with a sense of Christian vocation that I've done my work as a scholar teacher. I've always intended that it should be a contribution to that end, even though the place in which I've done it and the rules and procedures that I have accepted as alone appropriate to the doing of it have been those of the academy.